Alright, so I'm going to teach you a little bit about how to create a teleportation effect, much like you would see from Nightcrawler from the X-Men. Now, here is what I was able to put together. Oop, there we go. As you can tell, the sound effect is really what sells it, I think. Okay, so how do you put that together? Well, first of all, it is a number of pre-compositional layers. Let's start with the disappearance, which would be the first part. Now what I did is I went through this, I found where I wanted to have myself disappear, and I basically just cut the footage at that point. Just to kind of show you an example of how that looks. Turn off my adjustment layers, and that's where I cut the footage. Now then I went back and I found from the footage where I wanted myself to reappear. Do the same thing. Let me show you real quick with the adjustment layers off. Just chose where I wanted myself to reappear, jumping. So basically I just shot the video with myself jumping in one place, jumping in another place, and then spliced it together. Now what really sells this though is adding in the effects. On each of these disappearance and appearance layers I added both a twist to the background, which you can see right, if I turn this one off, you can see twist in the background. That essentially is just an added on effect that I did to the adjustment layer that I put over top of this footage. Now what I did is just to add both an effect to the background and also to the foreground element, which is myself in both cases, I added two adjustment layers. This one I just added the twirl effect, changed the radius, or excuse me, the angle from 0 where I wanted the effect to start to about almost 360, so 354, and then back down to 0 before it disappeared. Now on the same effect, I also went back, show you turn this layer back on. I also added what's called a liquefy layer. Now to deal with that, I use the pucker tool. If I turn on the effect, you can see there's many tools here. The pucker tool is the one that I thought worked the best. Made it appear as if I'm sucked into a black hole. And that can be just easily done with, again, here's the distortion effect from 0 to 100. Just simple adding in keyframes. Now, of course, you do exactly the opposite on the reappearing piece of footage. There's the twirl and the liquefy effect. Now to add the smoke in, I was able to find basically what it is a muzzle flash smoke. And I actually pre-comped two layers. So I duplicated itself and offset it just slightly. So you can see that I've got one part that starts right there and another blue that starts right underneath it. I think that gives it a little bit of the depth that's necessary in this effect. The only effects that I added to it were to add a little bit of color to as you can see here, on the top layer, I have it a little more purplish, and on the bottom layer, it's very just blue. When you mix those together, you get a really nice effect. Now, of course, I essentially duplicated that for the second smoked effect, and then laid those on top of these layers. And that's really all there is to it. Of course, as I said, adding in sound effects, that also really adds a lot of elements to it. Now, of course, before I put it all together, make sure all my adjustment layers are turned back on. Back to my teleport here. Let that part go, and there you have it.